Ladies and gentlemen, in this episode of Respect Your Elders, we aren't talking about any normal game. This game isn't a good game just to some people. This is a game that is loved and cherished by all. I'm proud to present to you one of Nintendo's greatest accomplishments, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. This is considered by most to be one of the best games ever made. For me, it tops my favorite games of all time, with Super Metroid taking a close second. If you've never played this game, and God forbid even heard about it, let me rectify that now. Not only will I be going over the entire history and development of this game, but I will also be reviewing it. So without further delay, this is Ocarina of Time. In the year 1995, a tech demo under the name of Zelda 64 was shown at Nintendo's Space World Trade Show in December. It was showcased for games for the Nintendo 64, along with Super Mario 64 and GoldenEye 007. Originally, Ocarina of Time was built on the Mario 64 engine since they were being worked on side by side. But of course, they would later use a different engine for the game. At this time, Ocarina of Time was planned to be released on the Nintendo 64 disk drive. However, development was moved from the DD to just a Nintendo 64 cartridge, with an expansion on the Nintendo disk drive. Unfortunately, this expansion, known under the name of Ura Zelda, would never see the light of day. However, a group of people headed up by a guy named ZethN64 is actually restoring Ura Zelda. Nintendo has always been known for their expansions of Zelda games. In the original Zelda, there was the second quest, with harder dungeons and a new overworld map. On the Super Nintendo in Japan, there was a satellite broadcast system for the Super Famicom, known as the Satellaview, which was supported by a company called St. Giga. Not only did they re-release A Link to the Past, but they also released BS Zelda. And it doesn't end there. Nintendo also made an episodic series called The Legend of Zelda: Ancient Stone Tablets. Of course, since these games were only released in Japan, I have no problem sending you towards the ways of emulation, in this case. Just look for BS Zelda ROMs on Google, and that should fix you up. Anyways, back to the development cycle. Shigeru Miyamoto wanted to focus more on swordplay, much like The Adventure of Link did. He also wanted the game to be played from a first-person perspective, like today's FPSs. But the developers had spent so much time on the model of Link that they threw the idea right out. The developers also had a fear about the memory constraints of a normal cartridge. They first thought of a portal system much like the paintings in Super Mario 64. But in the end, Nintendo was able to fit everything on a 32 megabyte cartridge, which was the biggest game that they had made yet. So by the time retailers were ready to take pre-orders, the game started to get a lot of hype. Demand was so great for the game that EB Games, or GameStop now, had to stop taking pre-orders on November 3rd, 1998. On November 23rd of that same year, Ocarina of Time was released, receiving a widespread critical acclaim and a great commercial success. Before the end of 1998, the game had sold over 2.8 million copies. In its lifetime, the game would sell 7.6 million copies worldwide. The game received perfect scores from reviewers and changed the world of video games forever. After the game's initial release, the game received a number of ports and remakes. On February 18, 2003, a port of Ocarina of Time was made on the GameCube. This port also had the Japanese-only Master Quest, which had a mirrored overworld and rearranged dungeons. A lot of people would consider Master Quest to be Ura Zelda, but unfortunately, these people would be wrong. Remember, Ura Zelda was supposed to be an add-on, not a rearrangement. On November 17th of the same year, a special game was bundled with a new price drop of the GameCube. This game was called The Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition. The game had 4 games in all. It had the original Legend of Zelda, The Adventure of Link, Majora's Mask, and Ocarina of Time. It also had a 20-minute demo of Wind Waker and a retrospective video on The Legend of Zelda. On February 27, 2007, Ocarina of Time was released on the Wii's Virtual Console for 1,000 Wii points. And finally, the latest rendition of the game is on the 3DS. The game also had Master Quest in it after beating the game once. The game had upgraded graphics and was also, of course, in 3D. With each release of the game, small changes were made, like Ganondorf's blood changing from red to green, and small patches to glitches in the original game. The game itself starts out in a forest where our young hero Link is having a horrible nightmare. The next morning, a fairy named Navi wakes him up to tell him that the Great Deku Tree wishes to meet with him. So after acquiring a sword and a shield, the Great Deku Tree tells you that someone has cursed him. So he asks Link to go inside and solve the problem. So you go through the tree and kill the monster. Then, the Great Deku Tree tells you about the origins of the Triforce and the Three Goddesses, and how Hyrule was created. He tells you to go to Hyrule Castle for help, but unfortunately, the monster did too much damage. So the Great Deku Tree passes away. After venturing to Hyrule Castle, you meet this game's Princess Zelda. She tells you about a man named Ganondorf. He obtains the Triforce in the Sacred Realm, while you must wait in the Temple of Time to become a hero. The land has become a very dark place under Ganondorf's rule, so it's up to you to stop him. For this first Zelda game being in 3D, it's a pretty damn good one at that. The game is set up in a third-person view while having RPG elements as well as puzzle elements in the dungeons of the game. Your main weapons of the game are mostly your trusty sword and shield, but you will also find other weapons and tools to use. Be warned, some items may not work when traveling from a kid to an adult. Also, when you travel through time, you aren't the only thing that changes. Zombies invade the main town, Zora's domain is frozen over, and even your forest village is overwhelmed by monsters. Of course, if you don't feel like saving the world at the moment, there are always plenty of side quests in Hyrule, and tons of minigames. Believe it or not, the targeting system in this game was a revolution. All you had to do was press the Z button once to lock on, and press it again to lock off. Except for the final boss. Whoa. Wait a second. We have a few spoilers to go over here. So, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put a little dancing Chrono down in the corner, and when he's gone, the spoilers will be over. Okay? Okay. Well, moving on. During the game, you come across a Sheikah named, well, Sheik. He visits you before each temple to teach you a song on your ocarina that will help you in your quest. When you go through all the dungeons and awaken the 6 sages, Sheik reveals himself to be Princess Zelda. Wait a second, Zelda's cross-dressing? Oh well. Zelda tells you that Ganondorf touched the Triforce. It's split into 3 different parts: the Triforce of Power, the Triforce of Wisdom, and the Triforce of Courage. Ironically enough, Ganondorf has the power, Zelda has wisdom, and Link has courage. Ganondorf then captures her and challenges you to a final battle. Ganon's castle is no walk in the park. Before you can even fight him, you must break 6 barriers to open the entryway to the tower. So, once you finally get to the top, you find Ganondorf playing a pipe organ, all epic-like. Then the final battle begins. It's like a tennis match, but with a huge ball of electricity. And oh yeah, Navi also kind of wimps out on this part, so no targeting for you. Once he is defeated, he tries to crush you by taking down his entire castle. That's just stupid. So you go down and down and down and down, and fight a little, and go down and down and down and down, until you finally escape to see the castle crumbling down. And when you think it's all over, Ganondorf rises out of the rubble and transforms into Ganon. He swipes away the Master Sword with his giant swords of a huge firewall encircles Link and Ganon, and the battle begins. This is the most epic final battle that I have ever seen. I mean, you're fighting a huge goat, pig, Satanist thing in a storm full of thunder and lightning lights up the sky, and there on the ground there are pieces of the castle everywhere. This is the definition of epic. Once you hurt him a little bit, the firewall comes down and you're able to retrieve your Master Sword, and continue the battle. Once you've hit him enough, Zelda will hit him with some magic and summons the 6 sages to banish Ganon to the evil realm. So everything ends. Everything is all hunky-dory. Zelda sends Link back in time to relive his childhood and to warn the king about Ganon's evil plans. And, well, that's the game. Alright, spoilers are over. Everyone back in the pool. Since Ocarina of Time, the Zelda series has continued to put out wonderful games with the newest edition of Skyward Sword. The game itself shouldn't be too hard to find, like I said before. There are tons of ports and remakes, so if you want to play this game, you should have no problem at all. Well, I think that sums up this episode. This is Sam from Other Side Gaming, and if you haven't thought about your ancestors lately, think again. I'll see you guys next time.